Hello coach, it's great to see you. In this video we are going to talk about cognitive development. Before getting into talking about cognitive development, however, a quick recap. In previous videos we have described how you can understand children through social, physical and emotional concepts. These videos have simplified the research about how children grow and develop and how knowing this can impact on your coaching practice. However, it is important to also acknowledge that children and young people do not present in these neat box concepts. Hopefully you will note we are trying to help you see these connections by offering coaching ideas that are similar across the videos. So, what do we mean by the term cognitive development? To answer this question, we should probably talk about cognition before we talk about cognitive development. Cognition relates to how we think about the world and about how we operate in it. We might talk about thinking, problem solving, forming judgments, decision making, learning. We hope you would agree these are all crucial elements of how children can engage and develop through sport. Cognitive development, therefore, relates to how children develop their capacity to do each of these things. This development can be through practice, but it can also be simply through the brain maturing due to biological changes. The good news is that an awareness of these developments can support our coaching of children through good planning, delivery and reflection. However, awareness can also help us help ourselves. Children and young people can often drive us to confusion and distraction. Knowing why can help us retain a sense of perspective, understanding, and crucially, patience. There is one component to cognitive development that I'm going to share with you today. This is known as working memory. Gaining an understanding of this concept has real implications for how we work with children and young people. Before talking about working memory, I would just like to reinforce the idea that has been consistent across these iCoach Kids videos. Children develop at different rates and big changes can happen in relatively short periods of time. So, your player born at the beginning of the school year will typically be more cognitively mature than your player born at the end of the school year, sometimes much more so. The implication here is to avoid what often feels natural and we start comparing children with each other. We can reach really inappropriate conclusions about the younger child being immature or difficult by doing so. We absolutely need to treat each child based on who they are rather than who they are not. So, back to working memory. Broadly speaking, we all have a limited capacity of ideas that we can work with at any one time. The classic idea is around 7 plus or minus 2 bits of information. Because of this limitation, the brain learns to compensate by creating chunks of information or rules of thumb that create shortcuts and reduces the information that we have to work with. Just think about how we store phone numbers. A key implication, therefore, is to avoid saying too much in instructions or team talks. Also, to try and find ways to capture key ideas in short statements. For example, in rugby, passing backwards often feels counterintuitive for children. We could use lots of instructions to get this principle across. Alternatively, we could simply instruct the people without the ball to make sure the person with the ball is always in front of them. This rule of thumb captures lots of ideas in one short statement. The second important element about working memory is that capacity seems to increase with age up until about 11 or 12. That is, we don't start with a capacity of 7 plus or minus 2. Young children may only have a capacity of 2. In other words, if we ask young children to think about more than 2 or 3 things, they will very quickly get confused. Hopefully the implication here is clear. The younger the child we work with, the less information they can deal with. Keep it simple, coach. A really interesting bit of research I want to share with you now was carried out by Tim Buzzard. Tim and his colleagues found that the size of a child's working memory, they described this as either being higher or lower, impacted on how they dealt with 5 instructions for shooting a basketball. Their results showed that children with higher working memory improved following instructions. Perhaps no surprise there. However, those with lower working memory actually got worse. Yes, coaching may have actually made children get worse. So by implication, does this now mean that we should measure children's working memory capacity? Does it mean that we should go instruction heavy for those children with higher working memory? Not quite. It does mean that we should learn to know our athletes and individualize our coaching towards them. Who are the children who cope and work well with instructions or questions? Who are the children who seem to get easily confused and struggle with instructions? For those who cope, we can perhaps be a bit more challenging. For those who struggle, we simplify, perhaps through demonstration or offer less detail, although this is generally just good advice for everyone. But remember, working memory will change with maturation. Understanding will also improve. Both can help children cope with more information. So keep checking for changes in your player and don't put them into boxes that you never take them out of again. The final piece of advice relating to memory returns to chunking. The way our memory works with chunking is by making connections between bits of information. This has really important implications for coaches. If we can find connections with what we would like to coach and what children know, we can use those connections to good effect. Firstly, the ideas we present to children mean more because they already know something about what we are talking to them about. Secondly, it allows immediate chunking, meaning there is less demand on working memory. This frees up space to engage with the tasks that we as coaches give them. Analogies, examples, and metaphors are all ways of doing this. Starting an instruction with, "This is a bit like," or "Do you remember?" or "Have you seen?" can all help make those connections with children and young people. Ultimately, all of the coaching implications I've offered here all come back to one core message. Take time to get to know your players and acknowledge their differences. This will help you work with them as individuals. We hope all these videos around child growth and development will help you in this process. Good luck, and we'll see you soon.